My name is Robert Karimi, and I am the MC for the St. Paul Almanac, traversing through time as if I'm Marty McFly of poetry, going through, saying a very old reference that probably only 20%, maybe 30, get. All right, so just so that you know, that this Lowertown Reading Jam is brought to you by the St. Paul Almanac. Let's give it up for them. Tonight's title is Emerging Voices of the Twin Cities on Race and Identity. Give me an ooh. Ooh. Yes. So, I'm going to introduce tonight's curator, but before I do that, I asked the curator if I could do something, and I didn't know if I could do it. So, if you don't know, we lost someone in poetry this morning, in the woman named Maya Angelou. Maya Angelou, I met her around, I don't even know, 20 years ago. And she did the thing that I always remember of any mentor, of every poet. She was very kind to young poets. And she was very kind to me as the little 23-year-old that knew nothing and thought he was a big badass, but he was not. And she taught me that. And I am very blessed to remember that as an artist, you should always carry your heart with you and first, and the people first. So this is for her, and this is reading one of her poems just to put her spirit in the room today, and this is called Willie. Willie was a man without fame. Hardly anybody knew his name. Crippled and limping, always walking lame. He said, I keep on moving just the same. Solitude was the climate in his head. Emptiness was the partner in his bed. Pain echoed in the steps of his tread. He said, I keep on following where the leaders led. I may cry and I will die, but my spirit is the soul of every spring. Watch for me, and you will see that I'm present in the songs that children sing. People called him uncle, boy, and hey, said, you can't live through this another day. Then they waited to hear what he would say. He said, I'm living in the games that children play. You may enter my sleep, people my dreams, threaten my early morning's ease, but I keep coming, following, laughing, crying, sure as a summer breeze. Wait for me, watch for me. My spirit is the surge of open seas. Look for me, ask for me. I'm the rustle in the autumn leaves. When the sun rises, I am the time. When the children sing, I am the rhyme. That was from Maya Angelou. Maya Angelou, presente. Everyone, let us give a big clap for Maya Angelou, please. And please take a time. I always say this for every poet because we lose poets as much as we gain poets. Please take the time to go to the library. Go and read her again tonight. Give a tribute by reading, and read with friends tonight. Please give it up for David Mura.
The readers in this reading are people that it's been supposed to be curated by myself, but it's actually curated by my son, Nikko Sencer-Mura. And these are friends of his who he's met through various different organizations and venues, through Merging Voices, which is a organization at the University of Minnesota. Chantz I've known since you were like this high, and so it's just great to be here with all these young people reading. And the first person who's going to read, I think you're in for a great treat, Malanda J. Simba.
How's everybody doing tonight? I'll be reading some excerpts off something that I'm kind of currently working on right now, so just bear with me. It's still into works, but I've always, I've always wanted a canvas to spill my story through, coated paint of what my thoughts be like. So, for a moment, vibe with me as I bare my soul to you, speak this mind to you, shine my light with you, live this life with you, get lost only to be found in thought with you. Isn't that why we all here? As a kid, I was taught that airplanes stayed afloat because God carried their wings. The moon was just a big ball of cheese that refused to come down because being closer to heaven was a better place. Flowers weren't meant to be picked, only admired through passing moments, but color was beautiful regardless of the form it came in. Shade was non-existent, but we were kids back then. Colored crayons, being a kid, my brown wasn't always beautiful. I mean, my complexion maybe was a little bit darker than it is now, but if only I knew then what I know now. I never knew some fruits taste better when filled with melanin, a source of the sun. The sun and the experience of itself being light that sips through it, I never knew. I never knew why my mama called me her son. No, not sun in blood, but the light carried underneath my skin. She told me I was the moon inside out. Mama said, you better be proud of wearing the skin so delicate, so brown, its reflection, even something solid as the ground you walk on, is shaken by your confidence. Mama said, truth, Pharaoh. You should always teach that, so, excuse me. Quote, I've always wondered, when a butterfly leaves the safety of its cocoon, does it realize how beautiful it's become, or does it still see itself as a caterpillar? It took me a few years before I came about. For a while, I was floating in the clouds, intertwined with the sun, searching for a place to settle and call home. There was a woman in desperate need of a son. I noted the sons she had did not last long. The world always found a way to dim their lights to sunset, so they departed, disappeared to again be part of the constellation of the stars igniting the sky with their bright lights. It was the only way they could revisit mom again. Eventually, all stars lose sparks, so they sent their last wishes, and I formed from scratch. See, I learned that women possess magic. With a slight tilt on a certain degree, they can revive their young through memory by escaping in the lost worlds. I was found there. The woman whom God handed me over, her aura glowed beyond the intensity of the moon. An eye outside perhaps thought the Savior found a new robe made in fabric of fireflies. She was pure. I remember the 9 months I spent in the comfort of her womb, surrounded with laughter, nurtured with love, oblivious to the outside struggles. I was safe, felt protected, and of course, contractions began. She had no choice but to cut me loose and guide me through. My journey was a gentle brush against canvas, soft promises pressed against innocent ears in form of whispers. I promise to protect you. You're here now. As blurred as the meaning of those words meant at the time, they nurtured the very shape of my existence. My first peek at the world was a walk through a heaven with a God for a tour guide. Held in divine hands, I cried for the first time. Excuse me. I cried for the first time, not because pain was inflicted, but to reveal doubt and prove to the bystanders that my nostrils worked properly, and they believed. As a way to thank the heavens for a grain of a wish wrapped in form of a star, she kissed my forehead with every bit of passion her body could master, knowing my soul aligned directly to the lost worlds. She was a smart woman. Her kiss confirmed my existence, so what if God is a woman? Or what if every bond formed is just a desire for a God, so God found a way to love you unconditionally through them? As new as I was, I figured I was entitled to questions, though answers seemed built at the highest peak of mountains I have not yet attained strength or comfort to explore. Not yet, ladies. Admittingly, the world was a strange place. My sight was blurred. Every sound and emotion was out of touch with reasoning. Everything was unfamiliar except for the presence of a woman I synchronized with. To protect me, she probably would have single-handedly handled an army of 1,000,000 enemies and made sure a speck of dust didn't touch me. A vigorous woman, painted in the projection of a goddess. I called her mother. Not to my surprise, this new space I resided under suggested names for everything that surrounded our existence. Seemingly, mother sounded perfect, the creator of all life, perhaps. Love, the essence of affection, described her character. I was designed to breathe 3 lives my brothers did not get a chance to experience. Although I was now a victim to flesh, I still managed to shine in the dark and find light in the star that I was. It wasn't always easy, but I found my way. At 2 months old, I crafted my first memory. I still remember the way light found pathways to my peripheral, and I've been in love with vision ever since. Thank you.
Thanks, Malanda. That was terrific. The second reader, Dane Verrett, is a member of Voices Merging, a multicultural student-based artist collective coalition at the University of Minnesota dedicated to providing venues, workshops, and a comfortable atmosphere for all types of artists. Dane is a son of New Orleans and is currently a graduate student of International Development and Education. Dane Verrett.
So before I start, I just want to say peace to Ancestor Angelou, and thank her for all the light and joy and wisdom that she's given to us through her 86 years. Okay. This first poem is called Flambeau. Dangerous it is to be a sun carrying light into the haze of futures, known, unknown, dreamt. The flambeau dances with a blazing torch and a barrel of fire strapped to his back, spinning through the haze, known, unknown, lived. The king of the carnival, a fool, believes the light is for him. The flambeau lives beneath the hot roar of the torch to guide the young trumpeter, lighting the way for a song of dreams into the haze of futures, dreamt, unknown, to be known. So, thank you. So, flambeaux are members of parades that, back home during Mardi Gras, we have flambeaux. They lead the parades through the night. This next poem is called Mule Blood. It's another short one. Once I was a brown child. In me once was a brown child whose mind was still deciding if it would be born natural or C-section. Standing on the edge, on the silver edge of a razor standing, my childhood was that gray edge of town where iron scales clap together like hammer and percussion cap and cuss clouds of sparks. And in them sparks, in them clouds of sparks, the flashes of light were all world and flesh, either black or white, was me, and folk could not decide whose side I was on. So, thank you. This next poem is, it's got a long title, and it's short. It's called The Portrait She Made of His Kind Became a Mirror. He remembers pools of shade from a misbelief tree. He says to her, the high flower season in your chest, that's where I gotta be. Black soil woman, red clay woman, growing in your palms is an earth that still nourishes. Its fruit be dangling from your wrists. Saw past my mask through your eyes. My thoughts was sterile land for wandering, a dust bowl of grinded skylines, horizons that wouldn't touch me. Your gaze knocked me home to springtime haze, ripe sun lay across brick porches at my boyhood's feet. Grass grew between my toes, sprouted when my eyes was closed, sleeping away a bricked up memory. Daydreams of breaking windows with stones pulled from my kidney, I woke with no need for sight. Felt dew, dripping from flowered trees, humming with the bees. In my bones is where the warmth must go. I'll bloom again from rare earth. Thanks to you, I can never go home. Back in the teeth of them who foam at the lips, mauling me into bread and butter. The song you sing is go on, go on. I step back from my reflection into a garden that stretched out for acres, a summertime world. And now all I can ask is, will you make me a tree of indigo so my shade outweighs gold? Thank you.
Thanks, Dane. Let's hear it again for Dane. Yep. The next reader is Dorothy O'Berry, and Dorothy is a young and upcoming motivational speaker and spoken word artist. She has been a poet for 4 years and enjoys writing about spirituality mostly, although love is universal in all of her pieces. Currently, she is an IT student at the University of Minnesota while creatively writing a short novel that will hopefully be finished within the year. Yes, we all hope we finish our work, yes. Dorothy worked briefly with Voices Merging, a spoken word student group on campus, helping to mold a space for others to share and create art. Dorothy O'Berry.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me all right? My name is Dorothy O'Berry, and I have 3 pieces to share with you. So the first one is about love, and then the second one is about anger, and then the third one is about love. So I'll just go right in. So oh, I'm sorry. Better? Okay. So the first one is called My Unnatural Disaster. An earthquake happens when 2 pieces of the earth slip past one another, and I'm no scientist, but my world shook when you walked by me. A tornado is described as a mobile vortex of rotating winds, and when I caught wind of your scent, I've been spinning ever since. These storms are described as natural, but there isn't anything realistic about the way I feel about you. Our passion is an eruption waiting to happen. You hurricane your way into my life, grew like a tsunami. It was too soon to not swoon on me. You are a disaster waiting to happen. Our infatuation is too much of a cosmic catastrophe to be applauded. I was starstruck when I found you through my telescope. I tried to claim you, but you only seem to be found when the lights are off. So instead of sweeping you far beneath my sheets, pretending I do not weep, I will sleep and love you naturally in my dreams. And when I wake, I will pretend you are watching silently in a galaxy far awake, and when it rains, I will know that the water no longer represents sadness. It is a welcome cleansing sent from heaven, serving to replenish. Thank you. So my second poem is kind of, well, I'll just go into it, and you'll see afterwards. So it's called Cover Girl. Men have always felt the need to fix us up a little concealer to conceal the flaws. Trust me, baby, I'm doing this to help you out. Since then, the media has imprinted the makeup makes up for what you lack idea. CoverGirl is essentially a blanket that's got you covered, girl, and Maybelline has no choice. Get the invoice. I serve to shadow your eyes so that you cannot see the truth I'm concealing from you. A bit of mascara because, yes, this is the mask era. Lipstick, keep your mouth shut. They don't need to hear what we're doing. This global war on women has got to stop. CoverGirl is shooting bullets and Rimmel London's got the missiles. We're wearing war paint. Since they're working from the inside, the damage seems less worldwide, but trust, we are becoming drones and family members and friends don't recognize us. I said, whoa, 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 we are becoming drones and family members and friends don't recognize us. Transformed. Like Chris, Queen Latifah suggested she can transform you for $8.99 plus 23 cents, and since she relates to us, a hood chick who can set it off, can pull off matte gloss that claims to make her lips soft, we buy it. And are out of hundreds, if not thousands, a year. All to cover up flaws we fear people will notice. The greatest trick that the devil ever pulled was convincing women that they look better in their makeup. And Mac ain't lying. Lipstick ain't no coincidence. It's on purpose. So the women won't speak out about the hearts that are hurting, that are burning, smoky eyes. Smoke obstructs vision, yet we still don't see it. We as women are being fooled by one of media's assassins. And I'm not just saying this for my own satisfaction. I'm asking for women to stop putting makeup in the necessity category, myself included, because what the game is really doing is making our generation polluted. Thank you. So that was a little anger for you guys, my version of anger anyway. My last poem is about love as well, and it's called Divine in His Kingdom. I have a relationship with the sun. I have been growing upward. My roots come from Eden, and I am still growing. His words. Wrapped around my arms and legs, I am vine, stretching endlessly to touch the sun. And he said, come boldly, so boldly will I come. He is the living water that drips plentifully through my lips, the light to my photosynthesis, the image I am created in my beginning. And my name is Strength, and I come from Almighty. I am Climber. I wasn't supposed to grow from cement, but the sun shed blood to open up the cracks so that I could see light. I am Runner, racing up steel gates, and I survive because I have a rock as my foundation. He is solid. And some would say concrete, so I grow, grounded in him, rooted as if I were an eggplant, but my God doesn't take too kindly to pollution unblemished. Only the pure, he says. There was a time when my stems were too short to be acknowledged by the farmer, but the sun, uprooted me from the foundation of sin, put me in the same pot that he resides in. He's my connection to the king, so I no longer have to worry about the lengths of my stems. He raises me up, carries me through the floods of life, but don't worry, we're only going through the motions, right? So when one wonders why I'm still running or climbing or growing, look at my foundation and the seeds he is sowing. I was planted with the purpose, even though I didn't deserve it. And now graciously, he's inviting me into his kingdom. Thank you.
The next reader is Chantz Erolin. And Chantz is a South Minneapolis-based rapper and poet. He's appeared at the Fine Line Cafe, First Avenue, and has toured around the country. He's collaborated with artists like Guante, Rapper Hooks, and Sophia Aris. He was recently featured in a multimedia issue of the Asian American Literary Review on mixed race identity. And he's somebody I've known since he was a kid, at Marcy with my son. So Chantz Erolin.
I'm going to start with a long love poem. It's called Quay Opposition, and it's modeled after an I Ching reading. 1. Around my wrists, a child's watch, beads and yarn loose around right, left hands. How long has it been since hooves landed in surprise at how soft the sands in Rio really were? How long until boredom? I wonder if it was a child who made this bracelet or if a man threaded and wove it together, smoke thick as dream states. Must the return be so violent? I've known my love as peace in the middle of America, as the whippoorwill, the loon, crying from across the lakes she and I drink from. I wait in judgment and load my guns with stones and skip them across the ribcage of the devil. 2. I've prayed for another in secret and have been met with pickpockets like Sun Tzu in Paris, translated from Japanese whiskey in the lot. The only man I knew to steal from my father, take from him what I will someday inherit, may already be falling sick with. 3. My father had sleek black hair once, long in a ponytail or falling loose on his naked shoulders, dancing with his scars, shiny forehead so big and growing taller each day. I had the same in a braid or tangled and hacked at. My mother would hide the knives from me as I would cut out knots before bathing, leaving trails of becoming. I remember the morning. His lover cut his hair in the bathroom. It must have been spring. We opened the windows, first time since September. It must have been spring. Come August, I know at least. I was bald as chickens hanging in bloody glass cages and under his lover's knife. 4. Trust is a muscle. Some have lifted dumbbells for bloodlust and kissed grounds for wine. What others took what jobs they could, hauling crates through alleys and sweating, half naked somewhere in Los Angeles. I've done nothing but fought and retreated. The only child, eldest and youngest, building castles out of snow as the imaginary surf. I spoke with melting kings and found novelty in the bloodletting of servitude. In the east, the snow is soaking with January rain. Drink from it, be drunk as I, too fated to make stable the scales rusting and tipping. She and I are water signs. I know Superior and Atlantic ring distant, but I will write you from the docks until your stone turns to sand, at which point we will happen upon each other. 5. I wait for your exodus. My teeth are crooked and stained. I know 10 years is a long time, but they should work for now, at least. Perhaps you will find it in your steps. The first in an airport. France and Paraguay. Not Minneapolis terminals I've slept in, loved another inn. Where did you see fit to walk knowing you would fly in the hour? If you do stumble, and my sadness becomes the heavy anchor dragging, I welcome the current and wish the harshest winds upon you, whether whistling through my teeth or trusting the earth is crowded with wisdom, biting through what ties me. 6. Dull in my eyes is the city my mother's father was born in my skin tanning the country my father has left. In my hands, a map around my wrists, the times I have spent on airplanes waiting for the return of her. The fool who grew impatient in his calves, softening each step like snow, dancing on canvas, finding sleep in my hair, the maze. Love, I grow weak in the presence of pilgrims. Swine that lead them here as my threat, floundering around me a sea, even drowning gets weary, and we flood Shinar, devastating the city and its tower. It's the melancholy we share, the stones our cities are built with, how we'd left, outgrown and denied them. You'd carry souvenirs up your sleeves and neatly teach me to tuck them away in my luggage. There's always room. We walk lifetimes between terminals and trains. And from the clouds now, I see the East Coast, blurry from a window seat. I loathe Queens rising beneath me. I draw spring into summer as if blocking the light and the drafts. I hope for hurricane. I throw coins amidst stones. Every arrow I cast aside instead of drawing to puncture is my missing, a sin. I wait not that I may strike at weakness, but that these lakes will fall and drench us as I wander when the waiting is too much. And in my missing I am thankful. Thank you. This is Officer Down. The West Coast don't know it like we do in our little snow globe. As when you enter the essay at university and the gook cop gives you a half nod. When you leave Frogtown and the Hmong kids just mug you in cipher. You eat free some days at Jasmine if the nice Vietnamese speaks to you like a child. It makes her husband happy. Perhaps their son hadn't been anywhere in years. Okay, I say, the surrogate, an effigy burning there. And the first time you hear gunshots, pray it's the writers from Eastlake, not the shields from the district who aimed always much better, the way that rope can be better, that fire is supreme. Instead, Julius is crying in my kitchen with his sharp suit on his way through. The city will fine us if we don't wash the Sertrese tag off the garage by the 1st. The squad cars just squeal. Julius gives his brother his gun back. Was it the 6 shots that missed the SWAT team he'd read of? The wrong chinks at the business end all slept in one room. A child, an infant, a man with his wife who were shot at in rounds when the glint of his gun shone. And somehow all 40 or 100 missed with the 6 fired at the right to intrusion. Or the Hmong pig who'd been found out in plain clothes assaulted by some runner at point blank. His chest made of Kevlar, he called in for medics, was met with a squad car, the white cop unloaded, and a yellow boy was left on the ground bleeding. When the SWAT team and white boy went home to their medals, we let go, go.
I came to the Twin Cities 40 years ago, and I remember the first poetry reading I attended, which was at the firehouse where Mixed Blood is on the West Bank. And it was a reading, and the featured reader there was Robert Bly, and there were a number of other readers. I think Trish Hampel was there, Jim Moore, Jill Breckenridge, a few others. And I walked into the place, and I was the only person of color in that room. For a long time, I was the only Asian around. I taught the first group of Southeast Asians in freshman comp at the U. This was like in '77. And so I've watched the Twin Cities change over the years. There was obviously a black population that had been here for several generations. But beyond that, different groups started immigrating into the cities, and the whole complexion of the cities changed. And one of the things I wanted to do with this reading is just have people from my kids' generation who've changed what the Twin Cities is. And we still go around with this image of the Twin Cities as if it's Lake Wobegon. And it ain't. So I know this is the St. Paul Almanac, and I'm gonna, I am gonna read a poem that was in the St. Paul Almanac, but I'm gonna start with a poem which is called Minneapolis Public. And it's about the school that all my kids went to. And it's just about what the Twin Cities is like now. Minneapolis Public. And the older people here know that Garrison Keillor says that Lake Wobegon, where all the women are strong, the men good looking, and the children above average. You younger people probably don't even know that that's what Garrison Keillor always says about Lake Wobegon. So Minneapolis Public. There are 150 first languages in our schools, and so many aliens, even E.T. would go unnoticed. Though if your tongue moved one way in the land of your birth, it must move another now, awkward at first. There are blacks here who've never been to Africa. Africans who've never heard a Baptist prayer, much less the solemn dirges of Lutherans, or how the artist formerly known is some sort of prince. In the Anthology of American Buddhist Poetry, which interestingly is all white, like, my grandparents weren't Buddhist, you will find not one face of a Tibetan, but they are here with girls and boys named Tenzin. And one, my son's good friend, throws a hard, mean spiral. Esmer is not the name of a girl, but a Bosnian boy who crouches at a table and glues a lamp together, and later with my other son conspires on a book, A Touch of Rabies, a heartbreaking tale of good dogs gone bad. Why tell a soul of the sieges that brought him here? Or stories of the Dalai Lama and the temples destroyed? Or troops of the warlords in the streets of Somalia, the borders dividing death from safety, if not evil and good? Say you're Egyptian or Haitian. Here you're singular, not part of a Big Apple ghetto. If you're Chinese, most likely you're adopted, or else your parents study engineering at the U. And have I mentioned the Mexicans? In West Side Story, the rumble starts with Puerto Ricans and working class whites in a high school gym. This year, Maria's still Natalie Wood White to Jamaica's half-black Anita, and the Jets sport blacks, one Tibetan, and my Hapa daughter who still doesn't question such casting, or why Bye Bye Birdie last year just might not be the choice of half the school for a song and dance they could take on as their own. Still at the spring school dance, J-Lo and Ja Rule set the awkward bump and grind of junior high girls. And the boys, they watch on the sidelines, as boys that age do, whether Bosnian, black, white, Somali, Tibetan. I'm told we live in the land of Great Lake Wobegon, where all the women are strong, the men good looking, and the children above average. And I always add, everyone's white. Hey Tenzin, Nabil, go tell Garrison, not now, not quite. There's a poem in my new book, The Last Incantations, which first appeared in the St. Paul Almanac. And I don't know how many of you remember, but there was an incident a few years ago where a Hmong hunter got into an altercation with some white hunters, and he shot several white hunters and killed them. And then there was another incident where a Hmong hunter was shot by a white hunter. During that time, there was a bumper sticker, which was in Wisconsin. You'd see it said, "Save a deer, kill a Hmong," and it's spelled Hmong wrong, M-U-N-G. And if you're an Asian American and the people are sporting those bumpers, even though I'm not Hmong, it doesn't exactly make you feel welcome. So the first part of this is just a description of sort of an allusion to what happened. The second is in a voice of a Hmong hunter. It's called Wisconsin Hunting Season, and the epigraph is "Save a deer, kill a Hmong." At the stop and go, the clerk and customers sport the faces of opposing team. I search my pocket for change. Imagine a mask that might protect me. The bumper stickers brag of saving deer. Leaves of familiar brilliance brush the bark. If you walk there, an orange cap helps. Cover your face too, and keep it in the dark. A fire in a clearing, a pot bubbling. Someone climbs a tree to scout for game. Someone shouts a curse, others chime in. Now everyone will recall your name. A tribe on the watch for foreign terror, in the forest and mountains and plains. Let this wandering be part of their lore. Someone stole this land, someone claims. This isn't the voice of a Hmong hunter. And he has his spirit, a tiger who follows him, who followed him from Thailand. The tiger woke me in the dark, deep in the forest, smoking, trampling, autumn fields, no water buffalo grazing. Once in my uniform, how my children speak, how I do not sleep, trucking car parts all night to dealers, highways, diesel, super America. I shot him. The tiger sprang back, taking his claw from my foot, went back to sleep, fleeing the river where I swam, towel on my back, camps in Thailand, the white man who said to me, leaves rattling, crunching beneath my weight. Chicken blood scrawled on a doorway, yam and bok choy. What is this whiteness falling about me? So cold, the tiger smoking, a buck in the underbrush, aiming at the target. My white sergeant told me, if I walk here, I am not walking here. No, not that way. Distant voices, where am I? Clouds overhead. Get back to the road. I need to get back to the road. Voices, my daughters, home each night before midnight. My son at birth, opening their eyes to the world, breathing, wailing. The tiger behind me, before me, a clearing in the forest. Voices, faces, white, guns. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, a few years ago, the Minnesota Spoken Word Association gave me I was nominated for the Urban Griots Award. And I found this ironic because I grew up in a Jewish suburb. And the origins of this poem partly come, it's from my poem Patricia Smith, who Dane wrote about today, read today about New Orleans, and Patricia has this great book about Hurricane Katrina called Blood Dazzler. Anyway, she and I were sitting in a restaurant, and this song came on, and we had an argument about who did the song first, and she thought it was the Dave Clark Five, and it really wasn't the Dave Clark Five, and so I bet her that it wasn't, and when I won, she had to write a poem for me. So she wrote a poem about black girls in church called Let the Church Say Amen. So this is my answer to her poem. And it alludes to three things you sort of have to know. One is Yuri Kochiyama, who was an Asian American, Japanese American activist in Harlem. She was friends with Malcolm X. And she was there in the Audubon Ballroom when Malcolm X died. And she actually cradled his head as he was dying. Now, that's not in Spike Lee's film, but she was actually there. I think maybe if you had this Japanese American woman there in the front row, people would just spend the whole scene asking, what is this Japanese American woman doing in the front row? Also, when Amiri Baraka was here, and he's another of the elders who we lost this year, Amiri told Alex Pate that when he was at the Paris peace talks, the Viet Cong told him that they took solace and inspiration from the black civil rights movement. And they thought if blacks in America could fight the US government, so could they. Interesting connection in history. So this is Poem for Patricia Smith upon my nomination for the Urban Griots Award. If the urban griot unravels his hip-hop, or lyrics her way up from the blues, If she shouts gospel tongues going off creation from the gardens of Babylon, down Egypt's dark Nile nights, hell, it's all over but the dine's the refrain I sing. And if DJ Kool Herc and even Biggie and Tupac pass me by like comets in daylight, if my feet can't shuffle Motown or squeeze a duck walk off the floor, if my tongue numbs before some simple preacher chant, you hearing me? You hearing me, sisters and brothers? Girl, I can't slide that music up my guitar, can't juice my mouth to a boombox like truth, can't maze my way through alleys where the size of your balls cuts the chalk on the sidewalk, and hopscotch should be skipped by girls smacking Mary Mac, Mary Mac, Mac. Oh no, I gotta jump back. I'm just a boy from the suburbs, and yellow at that. My hallelujahs in my past, silent as a Buddha. And yet, if Uri could cradle Malcolm's bleeding body, if some VC could whisper to Baraka the song Martin prophesied, if you could dedicate Let the Church Say Amen to me. P.S. I just might be there, humming, harping, and howling, bones rattling and rolling off my all-American bandstand soul. So yes, pull out the crossing over, sip cups of Genmaicha and chronic, shout jittery and jazzy as Zen. As those long years ago, we shared spaces with those on the res for that word, Jap. Give it up, give it up. This is a song of the urban griot. Yeah, I don't know how many of you know that some of the internment camps were on Native American reservations. And the head of the internment camps, the Wartime Relocation Authority, went on after the war to become head of the Bureau of Indian Affairs. When I tell Native Americans that, they go, well, yeah, that figures. I'm going to read this piece, which is from Mixed Race in a Box, the Asian American Literary Review. And it's really something that I've sort of ripped off from Chantz, so I'm going to read it. And it comes, in this thing we did, my son Nikko interviewed various mixed race people that he knew. And Chantz came up with this very interesting word, ambiguously brown. And his point when he was talking about being ambiguously brown is people always feel free to come up and either ask what you are or tell you who you are if you're ambiguously brown. So this is and Chantz mentioned this little thing that happened to him outside Honey's. And when a girl came up to him, I hope it's okay if I read this to you. And for me, what this illustrates is how, sometimes when people come up and they say something, and if you're a person of color, they say something that's sort of obviously racially insulting, and you still have to figure out how to react. But sometimes they say something and you're thinking, is this racially insulting or is it not? How am I going to take this? And so this is one of those instances. You've just biked up to Honey's and you're talking to one of your friends outside the club. Another friend's performing later tonight. It's Friday night, late spring, the air soft and warm. Summer's coming. Traffic in downtown straggling north up Hennepin. A clutch of smokers on the sidewalk, leaning against the wall. A young white woman wanders from the club. Her light brown hair is a bit stringy and wet, probably from the sweat of dancing. She's wearing a red tank top and jeans. Not stopping your tracks, but not bad either. She lurches up to you, points a finger at you, or rather at your chest. She's clearly drunk. I don't mean to be a racist, reaching out and touching your Wu-Tang Clan t-shirt, but I really like Wu-Tang. She pauses and looks at you, and I think you're cute. 3 sentences, each of which you're instantly deciphering, like trying to work out what someone's saying to you in the din of a nightclub. I don't mean to be racist. Of course, that's whack. I'm censoring for public television. White people often say when they absolutely know they're going to say something racist. So you immediately flinch, your warp shields up, a flight or fight, because it could be, I'm going to say something really racist, and I'm just going to say this so you can't object because I'm saying I'm not a racist. And so if you do, you're overly sensitive and something like that, even though what I'm going to say to you is going to piss you off, and that's exactly why I'm saying it. But that's more usually what you get from dudes. Hey, I'm a white boy and you're not, so F you. With white women, it's often something a little less aggressive. It could be just, hey, what are you? Since you know your red is ambiguously brown, and brown is a public entity for white people. Because certainly you don't go around asking white people, you're white, aren't you? Well, how's that been? It's working out for you? You enjoying it? You like those privileges? That's some, isn't it, being white. Each time someone white says, I don't mean to be racist, and follows it with a, what are you? You gotta judge how racist they're being. Oh, not hugely racist, like say some white dude say brain, you know, I really like Asian women. Or shooting some racist Asian joke to beat you in a rap battle. But something in the question still rubs you. It's as if they feel they have the absolute right to inquire. It's not yours to keep, your identity, to reveal when and where you want. But this woman is slightly drunk, so she might be saying something more offensive rather than less. I like Wu-Tang? How am I supposed to break that down? You know, which side of the Dave Chappelle racial draft am I on? Perpetual questions for someone like me who's mixed, or as I like to put it, ambiguously brown. Is she pointing out that the shirt because Wu-Tang is Chinese and she sees me more as Asian? And is that why she said, I don't mean to be racist? But I grew up here in America, not China. And I'm half flipped, not Chinese. And yet I do identify myself as Asian, especially to white people. And I did buy this t-shirt, Wu-Tang equals Asian black hip hop. What's not to like? So would I think she's being racist? Well, maybe a little. Is it enough for me to be all disrespected? Probably so. Still, she's drunk. And she's kind of cute. And now, whoa, what's that she says? I think you're cute, me? So it's a clumsy come on? What am I supposed to do with that? She's a little sloppy, smiling a slightly goofy smile, probably not a racially conscious white girl, someone who took classes at Brown or Sarah Lawrence on race and white privilege, Fanon and Bell Hooks and Toni Morrison, White Skin 101. So maybe she hasn't had opportunities to be educated. Some of that's a class thing. And sometimes those white girls who think they know about race can be way more whack than white girls who don't. Then again, I don't always have women coming on to me. It's definitely not an everyday gig when some white woman checks me out because I'm Asian, since that's what she's implying here. And is that racist? Sure, if I were an Asian American woman and she were a white guy, her words could be trashed as Orientalist colonialist armies in Saigon, Subic Bay, Bangkok, prostitution, bull. But she's not a white guy. And I'm not an Asian American woman. So what the heck am I going to do? Should I just ignore her, turn back to my friend? No, that would be kind of rude. Move. Or should I play it out more a bit? See who she is, this drunk white girl who doesn't know what she don't know. Yeah, I say, I like Wu-Tang too. Thank you.